Hi everybody, thank you for tuning in. I'm Marwan from Marwan Media, teaching you how to be the best UX UI designer you can be. Today's topic, I have a little secret I want to share with you, what helps me to close 80%, like most of my clients, as soon as I have a first meeting with them. A lot of people in client meetings, especially when it's the first client meeting, they are trying to actively sell themselves. And don't get me wrong, when giving you this tip, I assume that you got the other things right, like preparation, reading the emails you've written to the client back and forth before the meeting, knowing the client's product, knowing what the client actually does, and who's the guy you're talking to, having looked up his profile on LinkedIn, and just having a basic common ground you can go into the meeting with. So you gotta have these things on point. But the other thing is then where the people split up, and the first camp is a lot of freelancers, a lot of business owners are into the act of actively selling themselves. It's nothing too far away, because it's like, okay, I need to say to the client that I have this and this and this profession, that I can help him out. And this is the first thing what comes to the mind of a lot of freelancers, and to which came to my mind too when I just started out. But another thing which is way more important, don't forget, and this should be always on your mind through the whole meeting, it's not about you, it's about the client. So what do I mean by that? I mean by that listen to the client. Listen. And I mean actively listening, not waiting until he stops and preparing what you will say after he stopped talking. This is not active listening. I mean active listening. Really sit down, look him in the eye and listen. Listen what he's got to say, and go into his shoes and try to understand his problem. And this is the first point. And then comes the second point. It's much more about asking the right questions than saying the right things to what he said. So just ask the right questions so he keeps continuing talking. This is the main thing. With the right questions, you will say a lot more about your profession and about how good you are, than if you actively taking every chance and talk what you did in the past, what project you've already done with your team and things like that. Just listen and then ask the right questions. What happens if you listen and ask the right questions? Then empathy, which is a main driver of a good first client meeting, empathy is a no-brainer. This is like the core of empathy. Listening, asking the right questions, and this will communicate that you really get the idea and the struggles the client is facing and why he reached out to you in the first place. So this is the main thing. Listen, ask the right questions to keep him to tell you more. Afterwards, he will be even more clearer. It could be like questions like, what would your product look like if something, instead of this pattern, you would use this pattern? Could you imagine something like this? And he starts to talk and explain things in the past that have failed, that he tried already. So this is a really important thing to keep in mind. I hope you get the idea. Everything is a negotiation. Even if he didn't decide to work with you yet, and you only have a first meeting where you get to know each other, even through your question, you will communicate in what price range you are in. Are you thinking like a little designer who only colors a few buttons, or are you thinking like a business owner and asking the right question, asking about the value something can bring if you change something, the value to the business, the return on investment. And if you want to dig deeper into this topic, which is really interesting and really crucial, if you got this down, this can be a great game changer in your whole freelance career. Never Split the Difference from Chris Voss. I loved the audiobook so much that I bought me a copy of the hardcover, and it's really nice. And there he talks about listening, asking the right questions, what type of personalities there are in negotiations. He digs a lot of really deep into these topics. So definite recommendation for everybody who's into the psychology of negotiation. And I hope you could take something away from this video. Try it the next time and let me know how it went. I bet if you have something like A/B testing and you try both variations, which you can obviously not with the same client, the one where you focus on asking and listening will have a much higher chance of closing a deal. So I hope you could take something away from today's video. Thank you really much for tuning in, and see you next time on the channel. Subscribe if you haven't already. Bye bye.